Welcome everybody to the Paint Basket online art lessons. And today we're going to be doing a still life, and we're going to take our time on this one. We want everybody to, those that are painting along and those that are going to be following along later on, to do a nice job such that it'll be good enough for you to hang up or even sell or whatever you want to do with it. So let's go along. We go over now to our screen, and there we have the painting that I've put along. Somewhere along the line there was a little bit of a slight little mix-up, and you've got the same objects, but just in a bit of a different arrangement. But that doesn't matter. If you've drawn the other one, that doesn't matter, because the techniques are going to be exactly the same. So whatever you do, you just go along and follow along. And we've got this very dark background, and that I'll show you the mixer we're going to do. When we come to the cloth that's in the bottom, I'm going to lighten it up a little bit so that we don't have too much of a dark around the outside, but we need the dark on the top end to be able to show the glass very nicely. And we have the pomegranate there with all the little loose the granites, little pips, etc. Got my tongue tied here at the moment. Okay, so let's go over to the and have a look. Right here, let's just take that, put that aside. I have the template, and what I've done is I've cut the template through, stuck it together. You can see the marks, the alignment marks, and then I've taken a pencil, made a carbon at the bottom, and then transferred it through onto here. So let's take that off. And put that to the side. And what we want to do now is to have a nice, neat outline across here. So when we paint, this is going to be very, very dark. And it's very easy to come into this area, into the light parts where you don't want it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some masking. And I'll use that. I'm going to be using some magic mending tape. And I'll be cutting off little pieces. So let's cut off a little strip. And then I'm going to put it with as much of the tape on the outside, so that you have space there for going over. Let's just put this across here, up to the top, through to there. And I know it's hard to see at the moment, but this is the width. The tape is from there to there, so I've got more of it on that side of the line. So now we need to carry on and start putting these across. So let's take that. You can follow me. I'm leaving more of the tape on the outside. Sometimes you can actually use masking tape as well too. If you've got it, maybe just, I don't know, just give me that masking tape, please. I want to check on the masking tape, because sometimes if you haven't got the magic mending tape, you can actually also use masking tape. I just want to check here, thanks, to see. I'm going to do a little test, and we see if you haven't got magic mending tape, but that, see, you can actually see the line actually I mentioned something wrong here. What I need to do, let me take that off again. Need more in the inside so that you have more cover up here so you don't go into the wrong way around. Okay, you can take the masking tape like that one there, for argument's sake. You can take that on there. Right, let's use masking tape. You got your magic mending tape, that's also fine. So let's add these on and cover up as much of this as you can. I hope we didn't sort of mislead you there a bit just now. Sometimes one gets confused a little bit. Let's get here, across there. Let's get some more. Actually, it's easier now for you to see what I'm doing using the masking tape than with the magic mending tape. I often use the magic mending tape, but then of course I can see what's going on. So let's take that. All right, let's demonstrate what I'm going to do here. Well, all right, let's finish here, then I know that everything is done. Put some more across here. I'll have a look at the chat box now to see if anybody's got any questions. And I think that's, maybe I've done it there. Okay. There's the chat box. Let's have a look. Have you seen Cheryl Canberry's post on not having access to classes she bought? You know, that Nolan, he's not here at the moment, but he'll pick that up on the emails. He usually does that. He's very good at doing that. Got here Nina, fantastic. Rick, Autumn Thane had to sign an account. Okay. You can use masking fluid, but you've got to be very careful. You're not going to get that very nice line, sharp line using masking fluid. That's why I'm using this. For rough stuff that's got little, not too long, a straight piece, it's better to use the masking fluid, masking tape than masking fluid. No, it's not difficult to remove masking fluid because we will be using some masking fluid for inside the different areas where we want to keep the light areas. We're going to use some in here as well too, and then when we do this cloth, we'll be using masking fluid. I'll show you a very easy way in getting rid of lifting the masking fluid. That's not a problem. Now the idea of the masking fluid is to protect the white areas, because sometimes it doesn't matter how careful you are, and if it's a tiny plot, it's not always easy to protect. Now, what I've done here now I've got a craft knife, a little craft knife, and that opens up, and you've got a nice sharpener where you can break off the little pieces that you need. And if you've been using a craft knife, I suggest that you take that, pull that in first. Whenever you work with a knife, before you do anything, close up this tip, because that's if accidents do happen. And this is one a bit tough on this one here to get it out. There we go. Now we can take that out. Then I take it out just enough. There's a little groove inside there, just enough so you can see that groove. Then you've got this other little piece inside here. Get it in, and then you can snap that off. Let's snap that off. There we go. And then I'm just going to put that carefully aside. And what happens now, I have a nice, very, very sharp tip coming in. Now you need to, if you don't want to cut right through this piece of paper, what you can do is to test the pressure that you do. Take a bit of masking tape. In other words, I've got one little test strip with the same type of paper. You can take your masking tape, put a piece of masking tape on there, and then try and catch it with just enough pressure to cut through. Lay this flat. Don't do this straight up and try and pick it. Lay it flat. Otherwise, you're going to dig into the paper. Take that up. There, and then you can peel that piece off. So before you go onto here, take it and test it on another piece of paper. Always be more safe than sorry. Take your time. Don't rush. You want to have a nice job. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to cut carefully along the edge. I'll just start at the one end. Slowly cut along. Turn it. Carefully go along the edge. The one is over the other one. You need to grip it down a bit. I don't move it. I keep it there. And then turn it around to that point. Okay. Then I'm just going to cut that piece off. Carefully pull it aside. Yes, and I've got a very steady hand. I used to do a lot of target shooting in my younger days, and we also did competition work with three positional, where you lie, then you kneel, and then you stand shooting with a .22 rifle. And I'm still fortunate for my age. My hands are still very, very steady. Okay, when you get to a stage here where you've stopped anything, don't try and pull it. Pick it up until you got right to that corner. And then you need to have a look and see where that edge is. Check that it goes in a little bit here, out across to there. If necessary, turn your paper. Nothing wrong with that, so that you get it nice. no need to struggle if you don't have to. All this is your preparatory work that one needs to do. Okay? Just going to pick up to see where the pencil lines are. Okay, so let's pick that one up. Just cut it there. Right. Okay, so while I'm busy here, I might as well start this side. Right, you still got this little piece that's a double tape, so I'm going to go through that one again. There we go. We got that. Now we need to just do this area along here. So that goes right around now. Oops, let's get that here. This little double tape, but I just want to check to see whether it's gone through or not. Didn't press hard enough to go through a double tape. There we go. It's one of these things where you need to take your time if you want to have a nice, decent job. Do it very slowly. Round. Get that one. Do that here across here. Right, here we have the I found that when I use the quite often when I use the magic mending tape, it is so transparent that at times you don't always see where it is. You start painting, and all of a sudden the paint doesn't want to take. You suddenly realize there's a piece of magic mending tape that you can't see. So if you do your lines just dark enough that you can see through the masking tape, you can see this is just a little bump here that may make a little mark. It sticks out a little bit. I just want to trim that off, that little piece here. There we go. That was just there where the one tape went over the other one. And if you're holding your knife too straight up, you find it's going to pick the tape where it overlaps. But if you hold your knife more at like that angle and cut this way instead of that way, this tends to pick it up. This one runs, and you find that it's much easier. Also, just keep your finger at that point, hold it down a bit, and then cut through. So there we have that. I'm not worried about the cloth here because that we can. It's not serious. What I needed to do was that these outlines across here and through here need to be very sharp. So, let's see, any questions? How do you refresh? Yeah, on your page there's like a little arrow that goes around like a little circle. Click that one and it'll refresh your page. End of the address bar. Okay. Oh, can't find the circle. Maybe I'll close and start again. No, you won't lose it. Just log in again. Dennis, could one use the clear book covering as Nolan has demonstrated? Is it? Got to be very careful with the book covering onto the paper. If you do, you must get the one that is a very low tack. I've been caught that way as well too. It's okay on a canvas because the canvas, there's nothing to rip up, but on the paper, if it's a slightly softish paper, what happens is it can pick up the fibers and can start tearing. And once it starts tearing, then you lift up this, and then you find there's a place there when you start painting, the paint goes in and forms a much darker spot. So I wouldn't use the clear book covering. If you try it on the paper, but not on a piece of painting that you are actually going to be doing like we're doing here now. Test it first. I did a big painting one day. Let's go to here. Many years back, I did a large painting. It was a huge, big painting of a sailing ship. And it had all the sails on, the riggings, all the final details and everything in it. And I'd put masking fluid on all the areas where I needed it. And I painted the sky, I painted the sea, and I started to paint on the boat. In other words, I'd had 3/4 of the painting. In some places, I had to now start removing the masking fluid so that I could start painting. And guess what? Doesn't matter what I did, that paper just ripped to pieces. All my hard work, that big painting, everything, I just tear it up and throw it away. It taught me a valuable lesson. When you're using masking fluid, you see, there's some papers that have got a lot of sizing on it, and it's fairly flat, a hard surface. Some of it is a soft surface. So always test your masking fluid on the paper that you're going to be using before you do it, so you don't have the same heartache that I had many years back. So it's a good lesson to learn. Okay, yeah, we're back here again. Let's see. Okay. Autistic maniac. Oh, well, good. Welcome. Right, let's go back here now. Now, I've got these on. And another little tip is when we're going to be doing the background first. We're going to do that background. I'll show you the mixing. And then when we come to this front end here, we're going to start working here. What happens, your hand is on here, and this is pencil work. And if you've done the rubbing, as we had, you know, on behind this one, all this is soft graphite. And if you don't watch it, you're going to be working along, and you're going to find all of a sudden all your lines have disappeared and smudged into a thing. So when you do that, and you take a piece of paper, it's like here now, we're going to be working on this this background, or when we take this off and start working in here, take a piece of paper, tape it down. Now you can use your hand, and you can smudge, and you can do whatever you want to, and you're going to keep that very, very nice and clean. Also, some people's hands are very sweaty and sometimes oily. Mine are very, very seldom sweaty or oily. I can work on, and it doesn't affect at all. But it's a good tip if you cover your, better to protect your work rather than have a problem later on, because once you lose that, you have to try and come along. It's not easy to put your template back on exactly as it was before, unless you've got a tracing, and but even then, once you've done the rubbing in the back of the tracing, you can't see these lines anyway. Okay, so now we're going to start working on the background. So, and oh, it's a dark green. So it's do something here. Let's do that. Look at you've got that dark, very dark background. Don't use black. Black makes it very clinical. I prefer to mix a dark color. Now, depending on the color that you use, you can have a blue black, green black, red black, brown black. With the background, once you start putting thinning it down a little bit, those colors come out. I'm going to make mine a green black, if one can call it that. The simple reason is for that is that when we start coming along and working with the lamp itself, it's like a copper thing. It's got that greeny tinge, and it's easy now to use the green that we're going to be using for here with a little bit of yellow to paint the actual body of the lamp. Okay, so let's clear that. And what I'm using a burnt sienna, viridian, and ultramarine. And I've got my little, yep, so let's go over to the palette, and we're going to do some mixing, and it's going to be very, very dark, and we're going to mix enough to paint the whole background. If not, well, don't forget you can always go over the background a second time, because quite often when you mix a dark color and it dries lighter than what you actually when you've put it on. So sometimes you need to go over and add a second layer on top. That's done very gently, so without disturbing the bottom layer. Okay, so now I'm going to take some water, and I'm going to put some in. I don't want to make sort of too wet. I can always add some more water, and I want to make it reasonably thick. lots of pigment. So, right, let's go and put in some viridian. I'm going to put in some ultramarine. And some burnt sienna. Now, burnt sienna is actually a dark orange. And if you want to give the shade color of a green, you will add the red to the other side. But now, viridian is different to the sap green type color, but you instead of this is sort of more on the reddy orangey side. So this is a dark orange. So let's put that in. You can see it's going to be quite a thick mess here. Okay, so now I want to get another little brush, and I'm going to start mixing this together. Almost too much water in here, but anyway, we'll check it. I want this very dark. You have to make sure that if you're using out of a tube, that this is mixed properly, that you don't pick up one of the colors on here, and when you go across, you're going to have a bit of a mix-up. So right now, let's carefully do that. Looks like it may not be dark enough, so I may have to add a bit more blue, but I'm going to check that. Now, where's my little piece of paper that I had here just now, that I used for testing? Yeah, yeah, it is. I always test the color. Now that's not dark enough. So I'm going to need to add some more. It's too green, so I won't be adding any more green in. I'm going to add a bit more burnt sienna into that, and a little bit more blue. Okay, put that aside, and let's continue mixing. You can see the difference there now. Now that one is much darker than the other one. And I don't want it pitch black. All I want to do is to get a nice color. And what we're going to do is I'm going to do the one, put a coating on it, dry it. I'm going to put a second coating on, and then we get it a nice even background. Now this is nice thick paste. It hardly even drops off my brush. Okay, right. So let's put that aside here. And let's go over to our... What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this upside down. I'm going to put it this way. Much easier. And what you can do, although it is not a runny one, that you can prop it up slightly at the back. So it's at a very slight angle. much easier to work down. So now I'm going to take a bigger brush. Remember, you got two. I've got these two brushes that one can use. You can either pick that up and work with this one, or this another one that I've got is the filbert, which is actually a comb brush, and let's use this one first. Pick that up. Alizarin crimson, yes, you can. It's, you see, there's all sorts of colors that you can use, as I mentioned earlier on, to make. If you use your alizarin crimson and ultramarine and your viridian at least, it also gives you a nice dark color. Over the paper indicates hot. No, cold press. Over the paper indicated hot press paper. It should. Did I say hot press paper? It should be cold press paper, because the hot press one is going to be very smooth. Use cold press. I don't know where the hot press came from. It wasn't supposed to be there. Well, it's one of those things that happen, unfortunately. Okay. You could use your porcelain mixing. You could also mix it onto something like this as well too. That's not a problem. Okay, now I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to do that. Here is where that cloth is. I'm going to go over that edge, and let's pick that up. Don't use a small brush. A small brush is going to make it very stripy. Big soft brush. At the moment, I'm just going to, here we go, over the edge. I'll smooth it off in a short while. Go over, just make sure that you don't go into an area where you need to be painting later on. And I'm not trying to paint this on too thinly either. Picking it up, and see, with the big brush, it goes fast and it goes quite easy. And let's put that across. You notice what I'm doing is I'm always working up and down instead of a crosswise, because if there are any stripes, let it be vertical, and it'll give you the impression later on that it's actually a curtain in the background, a dark curtain. Once you start putting crosswise, it starts fooling the eye, and after a while you don't know what's going on. And to do this, you see only a little piece at the top end here. So I'm going to go as far as that, then I'm going to smooth this out. Okay, now I'm going to, instead of using it up, I'm going to put my brush fairly flat, and then I'm going to slowly stroke it, one shot all the way to the top, down, all the way. You can see this, there's still little marks inside here, but when I do the second coat, that's going to disappear. There, because I want this dark background to show up the glass. Okay, let's do this. I know there's masking tape there, but we can go over that later on and close that gap. I'm going to have to mix some more for the second coat. Be sure to come right against the edge so that when you take the tape off later on, you have a nice background that makes it look more professional. Right, let's smooth this out. There we've got that. So I need to mix a little bit more because I want a more even background than I've got here. It doesn't have to be 100% even, but this part here is not even enough. Let me just turn it around and have a look. On the video, it doesn't look, it doesn't show up, but on the actual painting itself, there's marks inside here that haven't closed up properly. So right, let's go mix some more. If I mix a little bit too much, okay, now let's just mix just enough to do this covering at the moment. And what I suggest, because what later on we're going to be in the other classes, we're going to be using some of this green color, is get yourself when you've done your test strip. I never did my test strip now. Put it down here. It disappeared. Anyway, on your test strip, no, it's on the floor. Yeah, test. Okay. On your test strip, you've got this. What I do, I've still got some of this here, is see when I put the second, take some of that, put the second coat on this when it's dry. That covers up very, very nice. So what you do is when we're going to be with the other classes, because we're going to be using some of the same color in for the cloth, we're going to use some of the same color for using in the background when we're going to be doing with the glass, so this background shows through. And also for this copper work, it's got this light green tinge. When we add something yellow into it, we'll start getting that nice copper look. So keep that dry, keep it aside for the other classes. Okay, so don't need to clean my brush. Let's go over and mix some more color. And then I'll put the hairdryer on before we do it, otherwise we're going to start lifting up. And maybe, right, maybe a little bit more. and the Iridian green. And I've got one of these little droppers that I come along and add some water in. I don't want to make it too thin. If I need to, I can add some water in later on. I think this is enough. That nice mess. Playing mud pies. Okay, there we go. Just got to mix it thoroughly. Let's give it another test. Okay, not quite as dark as that one, but as for a layer over the top of this one, that will be fine. So let's get that. We put that aside. Now let's turn that up this way again. Much easier. You don't have to work over the other. And then pick up some of this and very softly go over the top. But use a very soft brush. And I'm touching it absolutely feather light. It's the way that you do a glaze, except this isn't glazing material, but the technique is exactly the same. Ooh. Yeah. Sorry about that. I get so carried away, yeah. You forget about everything else around. Now this background is lovely. Nice and smooth, even. Excuse me. Nice and even. So I'm just going to make it here with my color. go. I'm happy with that background now. So I'm going to put the hairdryer on. Right, there we have that. To see here, did I use the hairdryer the first time? No, what actually happened was that by the time I'd finished mixing the paint, this layer, the top layer, had dried enough for me to be able to put this other layer over on the top of this one. Let's see what any other questions that I missed. Sorry about those just now, but anyway, I got back onto the transparently, and I never did make click with watercolor. I went more with acrylics. Yeah. See, what happens is there are times in watercolor where you can paint thick. It doesn't matter. It depends on where or what you're doing. If you had to try and paint transparent in this area here, you'll never get it nice and dark like this. Other places where we're going to be painting inside here, we're going to be painting normal transparent type, you see. And also, we're going to be taking off the masking tape now, but this layer has to be very, very dry before you take it off, because if it's any bit wet, it can actually rip up the paper. So I'm going to, when I see just now when I tested the paper, always tested it with the back of my hand to see if it's dry. In case your hands are a bit on the oily side, you touch on the top, and then when you want to paint over again, it's going to, that oily patch is going to, fingerprint is going to show all the time. Right, let's just put this last little dryer on, and then I'm going to remove this. And when I'm going to be removing the tape, I'm going to have my hairdryer on, but on a very low heat, not hot. Pull it off. What happens is it just loosens the gum a little bit, and it stops me from tearing. The chance of tearing the paper is much, much slimmer. So let's get that going. There we go. Here we have our nice negative painting. And yeah, there's a bit of, oh, that came underneath the tape there, but that doesn't matter. That's going to be, part of this color is going to come in here anyway. Here is, we're going to use a little brush. And I'm just going to fill in this little piece here, where that handle is. And we'll come back and work on that one there. Right, let's see if I can just put a thicker paint in there. Right, let's dry that before there's any smudging. Okay, so I think what we can do, we just, there's a little pencil mark that I see is missing. Here we've got here where the wick is. There's that extra little line there, and you've got that lever that comes through. Across here, we've got a handle, a little knob for the wick, but that will lift that out when we need to. Okay, so here we got that. I think let's do this little top end here, and that will sort of help go us through for the day. We've got a little bit of this paint there left, and then we'll carry on next week with the next class, and then the next class we will work on the actual the glass itself. We're going to work from the top downwards, or if you prefer, we can do this and those two. You want to get it as, and then work in this area here. The glass will come last. Okay, so there's a little area there where I had, you can just see the little mark there. Let's get that away. That's where I had that little problem. So it just slowly lift it off there. There we go. Okay. Actually, I see our hour is up. So it actually still made a good start for the day, where those of you can carry on and get as far as this, so that when you get to next week, same time, we can then all be in the same level, and then we can start working on. And we'll have a look. We'll start working this one with the glass. There. Then we'll do that, then we do that, and then we'll carry on with this lot here. Okay, so let's go over. And thank you for, all right, let's have a look at a few little questions and then we'll sign off. That watercolor tube, oh, there's too much water. Yeah, if you want to get something that is very, very dense, use as little water as possible. Use as little water as possible to give you that thick covering. Use a lot of water when you want to do it nice and transparent. So let's check. I'll tell you what, let me sign off, and then we can carry on with with the questions after that. But don't go away yet. Let me just sign off, and I'll come back to you. Thank you very much for being with us today on the Paint Basket online art lessons. And go over to onlineartlessons.com and have a look. We've got over 500 other videos for you to look at, paint and watch, and give you lots of work to do and a lot of hints and tips, plenty of them there. So do that. And so from me, keep well until we meet at the same time, same place next week. So from me, God bless. Ciao for now.